You know, that friend, maybe it's you who starts a new project with the enthusiasm of a rocket launch, only to abandon it 2 weeks later because suddenly nothing is interesting anymore. You dive into a book, a hobby, or even a conversation, and within minutes your mind drifts like it's been put on a fast-forward setting. You're restless, impatient, sometimes even frustrated with yourself, and yet everyone else seems perfectly content to stick with the same routine, same TV show, same endless scroll. What's going on here? Why do people with high intelligence, brilliant ideas, or sharp minds seem perpetually bored? It turns out there's a fascinating psychology behind it. And no, it's not laziness. It's not a lack of discipline. In fact, it's often the exact opposite, a symptom of a mind that craves stimulation, challenge, and meaning at every turn. Today, we're going to unravel the subtle patterns of boredom in high IQ minds, and more importantly, what you can do to hack it so it stops sabotaging your focus and your joy. Let's start with the first type, the rapid-fire thinker. Picture someone who reads 3 books at once, has a dozen tabs open on their browser, and can solve a Rubik's Cube while explaining quantum physics. Their mind is always leaping ahead, looking for the next idea, the next connection, the next puzzle. Every task that doesn't challenge them feels like slow motion. Grocery shopping? Mind-numbing. Waiting in line? Torture. Social small talk? Painful. Why does this happen? The rapid-fire thinker's brain thrives on novelty and pattern recognition. Once a problem becomes predictable or a task routine, dopamine, the neurotransmitter that drives curiosity and reward, plummets. Boredom isn't just irritation. It's a neurochemical cry for stimulation. And here's the twist. This type often feels guilty for being bored because they should be able to focus. But the mind is wired for challenge, not monotony. So what's the fix? The key is structured novelty. Break routine in controlled ways, alternate tasks, introduce micro challenges, or gamify everyday chores. Even small puzzles, a new recipe, a tricky crossword, a language app for 5 minutes can give that rapid-fire brain the dopamine hit it craves. The lesson here, boredom is a signal, not a flaw. Then there's the overthinker. This person can spot inconsistencies in arguments, see multiple outcomes in a single decision, and detect patterns that others miss. Sounds powerful, right? But here's the catch. Overthinkers often experience boredom not because the task is dull, but because it's too simple to hold their attention. Their mind zooms past surface details to underlying complexities, and when life doesn't offer that complexity, they mentally check out. Imagine sitting through a meeting where everyone nods at the obvious while your brain constructs 1,000 alternative scenarios in the background. By the time someone gets to the main point, you're already 3 steps ahead, or worse, already disengaged. The psychological mechanism is cognitive underload. High IQ minds need mental stimulation above the baseline. Without it, boredom isn't optional. How to counteract it? Introduce layers of challenge within familiar tasks. Ask what-if questions. Build frameworks. Debate ideas internally or with someone who can match your pace. Even turning routine into a problem-solving exercise can keep the overthinker engaged. Next up, meet the purpose seeker. These are the people who get bored not because they crave novelty, but because they crave meaning. They'll scroll through hours of content or grind through a task, only to stop and think, why am I even doing this? Their boredom is existential, a signal that the activity lacks significance, impact, or alignment with their values. Here's the twist. Purpose seekers often seem restless or even flaky to outsiders, but their minds are not idle. They're scanning for alignment, trying to connect their actions with their identity, their goals, and their values. Boredom is the compass pointing toward what actually matters. Fixing this isn't about more stimulation, it's about clarity. The purpose seeker benefits from connecting everyday actions to bigger goals. If a task feels meaningless, reframe it. How does this move the needle towards something important? Even small reframes. This report is a step toward building my expertise, can transform boredom into engagement. Then we have the sensory explorer. This type thrives on external stimulation, sights, sounds, movement. Think of someone who gets bored staring at a screen for an hour but lights up in a bustling cafe or during a hike in the mountains. Their brains are attuned to rich, varied input. Monotony feels like mental starvation. The mechanism here involves sensory and attentional processing. High IQ people with sensory explorer tendencies process more information at once, so when the environment is bland, boredom hits fast. And unlike the rapid-fire thinker, it's not about ideas or abstraction, it's about richness and variety in the moment. The fix? Change your environment strategically. Rotate workspaces, use music or ambient sounds, take micro breaks outdoors, or even adjust lighting and textures. Sensory input isn't a luxury, it's fuel for the brain's engagement engine. Finally, let's talk about the future planner. You know the type, always 3 steps ahead, already imagining the outcome of every conversation, project, or decision. To them, the present moment is often underwhelming because the mind is living in potential futures. Boredom arrives because the now is predictable, and the future thrilling. Psychologically, this is tied to advanced executive function and mental simulation. They can mentally rehearse complex scenarios in seconds, which makes repetitive or simple tasks feel unbearably slow. The challenge isn't attention, it's temporal understimulation. The fix? Introduce intentional future play within the present. Use visualization exercises, goal-oriented micro projects, or forward-thinking brainstorming sessions. When the mind's built for the future, harness it rather than fight it. Turn boredom into planning power. So what does all this tell us? Boredom among high IQ individuals is rarely a weakness. It's a signal, a kind of internal alert that the mind is craving novelty, complexity, meaning, or sensory input. And while it can feel frustrating, it's also a remarkable asset. If you can recognize your type rapid-fire thinker, overthinker, purpose seeker, sensory explorer, or future planner, you can tailor strategies to stay engaged, productive, and fulfilled. Take a moment to reflect. Which type resonates most with you? Do you feel the restless energy of the rapid-fire thinker, the analytical itch of the overthinker, or the existential pull of the purpose seeker? Recognizing it is the first step. The second is designing your life around it, not against it. And here's the fun part. When you harness boredom properly, it becomes a tool. It pushes you toward new experiences, sharper thinking, deeper purpose, and richer environments. Boredom transforms from a frustrating itch into a guide for living a more intellectually and emotionally satisfying life. If you've ever felt like your mind was racing while the world around you drifts in slow motion, you're not alone. And more importantly, there's a path forward. Experiment with novelty, layer your challenges, connect to meaning, tune your sensory environment, and harness future thinking. These aren't hacks. They're ways to align the natural tendencies of a high IQ mind with real-world fulfillment. So take a moment and ask yourself, how does this land for you? Are you the restless strategist, the existential navigator, the sensory adventurer, or maybe a mix of all of them? Drop a comment and share, because understanding your boredom might just be the first step toward turning it into your greatest strength. If you want more insights into human behavior, brain quirks, and the psychology behind everyday life, hit subscribe. There's a whole world of mind hacks and brain mysteries waiting for you, and trust me, you won't get bored exploring it. If you like this video, make sure to like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss any update. Also, share it with your friends.